know that there is a lot of demand for academic courses and professional courses offered through distance education. But to offer these programs on a larger scale, you need academics and support staff on a large scale. But there seems to be some kind of lack of awareness as to how to make use of the distance education or the distance mode itself to train the people who would man the system. To discuss the related issues, I have with me Professor B.N. Koul, formerly Pro-Vice Chancellor of STRIDE at IGNOU, and Professor Koul is presently the Director of Distance Education Center, University of Westindies. Professor Koul, we know that there is a lot of improvement in offering both academic programs and professional programs with the help of technology all over the world. And we in India have also started offering online courses, particularly in IGNOU. We have a program online in computers. But then we face a serious challenge when it comes to the question of using distance mode to train our own academics in the area of self-instructional development, in counseling, and other activities which they have to carry out routinely. For instance, we have about 20,000 counselors now, and we have nearly 1,000 coordinators and assistant coordinators, and we have to train thousands of course writers. In all this, our experience at IGNOU has been that we arrange face-to-face training programs, either for a day or more. But in our view, I mean, it's obvious that it's not going to be the trend in future, particularly when technology is in place. I would like to know to what extent technology has been brought in to train people in such areas.
First place, let me comment on a few points that you raised. Number one, you talked about training, tutors, counselors, etc., who are in terms of in thousands, and that you train them for 1, 2, or 3 days. Now the experience at IGNOU must be the same as it is elsewhere, that 2 or 3 days really is not enough. So in giving them face-to-face training for 2 or 3 days, to my mind, is perhaps the minimum, the bare minimum that perhaps you can do. And therefore, if you are thinking of a reasonable element or reasonable degree of training, it has to be much more than those 3 days. Now, if we agree on this basic premise that to train a tutor properly, to train a counselor properly, we need much more than 3 days, technology comes in. Now, what does that mean? Technology necessarily does not mean, as you made a reference to, online operation. We can come to that a bit later. But technology is all along, you see, educational technology in terms of in it and for it, that is, the latter one refers to hardware, the first one refers to pedagogy. What has been done at IGNOU and can be improved upon is to prepare materials for training, which can be training modules, training manuals, and all that. And they can be given to people who have to be trained, and they can work on that material, and those 2 or 3 days can be the practical aspect. So you can really increase the number of days of training. Partly those days will be used for their work on those manuals to get the basic theoretical inputs and details, concepts, and then in the practical sessions you can get on to real hands-on business, right? Now then we come to this online thing. Since your clientele is large, I think those manuals and other things, you can by degrees move on to put them on a diskette, CD-ROMs and other things, and within which you can really incorporate even animation. And that can go to those people as if it is a live teacher talking to them. Recently I had an experiment done and of which I was a part at the university, at a university in Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon University. They have devised a system what they call just-in-time lecture. It is normally a person delivering a lecture, a teacher, a trainer delivering a lecture, talking about various concepts, talking about theoretical details, and it is digitally recorded. With the help of a camera. It could be done in a classroom, it could be done in a studio like this, and then that is transformed and you see carried on to a computer, a CD-ROM, and whatever transparencies you might use, some details, important points, cue points and significant elements in that, they are arranged with PowerPoint software, and they appear along with you on the screen, on the monitor. So as if you are delivering a lecture, you refer to those important points and you are delivering the lecture. Now this is what technology can do. That is, many of the things that you do in a face-to-face situation can be taken care of by technology, and that saves your time. That is where you can use it. Yeah.
We read a lot of literature coming primarily from the West on the use of technology in different situations, whether it is training or conducting practicals or offering programs and all. In a way, we have the theoretical awareness, if not a complete knowledge. And we also have a variety of technology available in India. And in an institution like IGNOU, at least the availability and accessibility of technology is no more a problem. But the problem, as we see it, is one of design, one of adaptability. How the existing training materials, for example, the print materials we have in a good strength, how that can be modified or adapted to suit the needs of our training programs, and how to make use of the available technology, including the teleconferencing.
Okay. I think in the first instance we have to be clear about what is coming from the West. You said a lot of literature is coming on. Yes, people are free to write and they write, and that is the literature you are talking about. But we should be clear about the fact that even the advanced institutions in advanced countries do not use technology of the kind we are talking about through and through. Now, what do I mean by that? Let us talk of the British Open University. British Open University has hundreds of courses on, and we should, by all standards, accept British Open University as standard institution, a pioneering institution, and Britain an advanced country. But all those hundreds of courses are not available online. Let us be clear about it. Because going online and bringing in high technology has a particular issue within that. That is the issue of access. In a teaching and learning transaction, access has to be two-way. You might capture things technologically and put them in a diskette or whatever, but there should be reasonable access from the side of student. Students should be able to get
Or the trainees.
Yes, trainees. Now, of course, work is being done right now to kind of reduce costs of technology even for ordinary students, but that is a long way off. So that is the first part I thought I need to make this comment. We should not be carried away by the slogans and literature and all that. We should be pragmatic. And when I say we should be pragmatic, what do I mean? Given the Indian context, STRIDE's activities, IGNOU's activities, you have to think of the kind of clientele you have. You have teachers or trainers or distance educators to train in the northeast, in the south, coastal areas, monsoon affected areas, cyclone affected areas, and Rajasthan, desert areas and places like that. So remote areas, backward, you see, communities where there are kind of, they even today might get a cultural shock if they watch something on television. And these things have to be kept in mind. Therefore, to my mind, for IGNOU and STRIDE, the best way is to depend on multiple layers of technology. You must have things in print, which is the more or less now a sort of accepted, normal, well-known technology. At the same time, efforts should be made to move on towards high tech. And you made a reference to your diploma program and master's program, which is available in print. Now this can straight away go onto a disk. The whole material can go on a disk, and you will have all those bulky things in one disk. Transportation becomes easy, and let us say you have 30 trainees in Andhra Pradesh. It is just a disk that has to move to that place. Now if they have PCs available to them, then given a kind of lab situation, they can sit and use that. If the number of PCs is smaller, seating arrangement can be of a sort that at least 3 people can work on one PC to get that information. Now if PCs are not available, at least the diskette can move at a cheaper postal cost, and the things can be then printed from the diskette there. So this is how you can use the technology. Comes the question of going online. You see, what is available to you today is the worldwide web, internet, and you can put your programs on the web, and people can access them. But again, the question there is how many can access that. But as many can, you see, you can do that. To my mind, by degrees, it should not be long when people will start having their PCs. But as I said, I don't kind of say that everybody has to do that. I did talk of stages and layers of technology. You will have to continue with many pockets within the country with the older technology, older approach, but at the same time you need to move in the new direction.
That's true. I mean, the combination of technology will depend on the situation or the context in which it is used. For example, the fairly established media like the video cassettes, audios, and our own printed materials can be designed and given as a package, as we are doing in the staff development programs. Maybe the duration will be less, and then you have to think of the components in each medium. And we are also moving towards that high tech which you mentioned. I deliberately asked a question on online programs because now we are going to offer our PG diploma and master's level programs in staff development to various students from various countries. And one suggestion right now that is being debated is whether we can make these programs available online. Now, there are a number of considerations. The students come from different countries with different technological developments. And one consideration to see whether the access is there. The other consideration is affordability. And these are applicable to our own situation as well. Now, within Stride, what kind of arrangement should be there? Suppose you have online programs and you also have the usual way of offering the programs. How to manage them?
You see, in the first place, you need to put your programs online on the web and have your what you call web address, right? I don't think that should be a difficulty. Your programs are already prepared and they must be on a floppy. They can go onto a disk, right? That is your end. Now comes the end of the student or the trainee. I am aware of courses, similar courses being given by other institutions in the world. London University does it. British Open University does it. There are institutions in Canada and Australia that do it. When they advertise, they normally talk of that you need to have a PC. A personal computer. Yes, it is a prerequisite with an internet connection. The connection could be to your LAN, that is your local area network, that is connected to the wider area network, so that you can receive the materials, you can download it and handle it. Now, this then becomes a precondition. Now, it is not necessary that you have your own PC. What is necessary that you need to have access to PC, which could belong to somebody else, and you could reserve some time every day on that.
Or maybe made available in a study center.
Yes, that can be done, right? So the presence or the existence or the availability of a PC is therefore must in one or the other form, or access to it is necessary. Now this is possible in certain cases, and this will not be possible in certain cases. So you can have a kind of, as I said, as an alternative. You can say that our course is available on web. Those who can access it, let them give their kind of names and other things, so you know that these people will access it on net. And for others, you can have it available in print format or in whatever form. And again, as I said, it is not necessary that you make it available to them in print format. You can make it available to them in a diskette form. A diskette can go, which they can get printed. From that they can get printed material which they will use. And then there is something more that is being done. Lots of other things are being done. For example, tutorials, online tutorials, what you call chat rooms or chat sessions. You fix a particular time, and then you come as a tutor and others log in at that time, and you discuss, you talk about
computer
things.
conference.
Yes, through a computer conference. And the only difference is that in a normal tutorial, you are using words of mouth, and people kind of can use body language also. Here you are using words. And a new cult has now started, kind of new custom, that people in those chat sessions don't bother about capital I's and full stops and all that. They just run on, give some gaps here and there, so that communication is fast. And it is done. And if you fail to attend a program, you can go back to your computer sometime later and kind of retrieve it for your benefit. So those things can be done. You can put your program on your web, but some effort has to be made within the unit.
I would like to go back to what you said at the beginning of our discussion, that there is no fun in going for either technology-based programs or online programs just for the sake of it. So the purpose should be clearly decided, and then we have to evolve a kind of criteria. For example, if you look at the numbers, say the number of counselors to be trained, obviously the access is a problem. At the same time, to train the counselors, that too repeatedly, as you said, that one-time training is almost no training. Then if you have to keep it going, in what way we can bring in the technology, and at what stages updating will be needed in what media?
You see, there are two questions now. First of all, I talk about updating. Updating is more like a revision, you see, and if your material is technologically stored with you, revisions become easy, right? So updating, whenever you want to update it and you feel the need to do that, you can do that. It is much easier to handle technologically recorded material or stored material than what is available to you in print. You see, print is now a sort of subsidiary option to have it. Even when you try to get material on internet, if the message is longer than 3, 4, 5 pages, the normal tendency of the people is to get a printout, because you would not like to look at the monitor all along. You get the printout, and then perhaps in your bed you go through those papers. So to my mind, updating, revision becomes much easier using the new technology.
That's only in the case of print, or in the case of audios, videos as well?
Okay, audios, videos also. When you go digital, things become easier there also, right? Then the question is actually, when you talked about the use of it, given this kind of clientele, I think it can be used all along. If you have a really specific thing to ask about, you just kind of raise that question with me.
Suppose our, let us take our counselor training.
Okay.
Normally we give one day.
The issue that you are talking of is that they don't, all of them, there are thousands, all of them will not have access to.
They don't have access.
Okay, you have the print-based thing. You use, this is what I said right in the beginning, though I used the example of remote areas and things. What perhaps was in my mind, those who don't have access of the kind needed for the use of technology. To them, you use the kind of technology that is possible for them. Now, I think given the Indian scenario and what I notice around, there is reasonable element and reasonable component, reasonable availability of computers, computer technology, computer awareness available in the country. So though we have thousands of counselors and tutors to train, I am sure many of them are in towns, in cities, in colleges, universities, where some kind of computer services will be available. So if you move maybe slowly, steadily, but certainly from print to diskettes, print will be your backup, diskettes, and diskettes can move to those sites, they can get printouts. So it is the intermediary thing that can be done by this kind of technology. And once the number of PCs and connections are available in reasonable number, they can switch over to it. Perhaps what I'm talking about is that you are caught up in a period of transition.
That's
See,
right.
yes, print is a kind of old technology, but has significance, I would say everlasting significance. If you read, I was talking about it yesterday to a group of people, that if you talk of self-instructional format as the second major development in correspondence education, and then it became what we call distance education, that generation, that material in self-instructional format will always be important, will always be used in print format. And then as you jump over audio video programs and move on to computer technology, that you may call fourth generation, and if you want to talk of internet as fifth, you may do so, but the second generation will be in use for a long time. So wherever you can use that, and you have to use that, you use that. But transportation and carrying things will become easier through diskettes. And storage. Storage and then revisions and other things. And as I said, in most of the towns and kind of bigger metropolitan places, if I or a certain person really does not have a PC to him or her own, to herself or himself, the person will have access, I would guess, to some facilities somewhere where the person can get printouts and all that.
And in some cases even institutions
will have. So I don't think we should hold ourselves back. What I'm saying is that access from the side of the trainee is a problem, but for that we should not at this stage hold ourselves back. Whatever material is available, we have revised them, let us put them on discs, and then kind of create a clientele for that, and people use that. You see, very often, again, you see, Japanese have, in a sense, by their various inventions proved that at times you create awareness by making a thing available. So once you have these things available, then you may then discover, okay, initially 10% could use them. Next year maybe 25 use them, and by degrees. But you have to have the thing in hand.
That's right. In all this, STRIDE will play the key role. Now, given the stage we are in, what would you expect STRIDE to do in terms of equipping itself to face these challenges? I have two specific issues in mind. One is to get trained to operate the technologies, including the PCs and all. The other is to be very comfortable with the communication skills. I would like to have your views on that.
Okay, I think you talk of STRIDE in specific terms. If you recall, you had a colleague known as Anita.
Anita, right? But later.
And if you recall, at that time I was looking after the things, made a special effort for her to go to Britain and learn what you call computer-based, computer-assisted, computer-related learning. The intention obviously was, it was long back, the intention obviously was that we have to move on to this, and within the unit, we must have at least one person who would know how to handle these things. And using the minimal resources, the intention was to use her services then within the unit to train others, other colleagues. That was how we did. I mean, send people one by one to pick up different kind of different trades, so to say, some for audio, some for video, some for computers, and so on. I think I know that she has left. A similar thing has to be done. I mean, somebody within the unit, that is a minimal cost. Otherwise, all of you could go for a training program and see how it is to be done. But to do it at a minimal cost, have at least one person who becomes thorough with it, and then kind of you commit your time to a reasonable degree every day, 2 hours or so that the person can kind of train you people. Much is important. It is important that the staff of Stride itself takes interest, and without any injunctions from anywhere. I mean, because if you are taking the role of leading the faculties and institutions, or helping them at least, if not leading, then you need to be well versed with that. So you have to kind of learn these things, read literature, hands-on practice and things, and then it can be done. It is not difficult.
Professor Koul touched upon a wide range of issues and offered his views and comments on what we could do and what is possible in future. We at Stride are making efforts to bring in more technology and adapt our old materials, not old in any other sense, except that they are available in print predominantly. And I'm sure that in course of time, Stride would perform much better than what it is performing now. And technology will have a very, very significant place in the training activities of Stride. I thank Professor Koul for giving us his valuable time and his sharing his experiences and views. Thank you, sir.